It started with a flickering light in the corner of the shop. Not metaphorical, an actual bulb that buzzed and dimmed whenever someone opened the door. I'd been meaning to fix it for weeks. Then she walked in, and suddenly I forgot it was even broken. Her name was Mara, though she didn't tell me that until much later. Mid-40s, maybe a little more, the kind of woman who carried her confidence like it was armor. Subtle, deliberate, never flashy. She wasn't trying to look younger. She didn't have to. She had that look people get when they've lived long enough to stop pretending, and somehow, that made her the most striking person in the room. She stood near the counter, waiting for me to notice her. I was elbow-deep in an old carburetor, hands black with grease. She didn't clear her throat or call out, just waited, patient but observant, like she was testing if I'd earn her attention. "Excuse me," she said finally. Her voice was calm, low, but there was something sharp beneath it. "Do you work here, or are you just fixing things for fun?" I turned, trying not to look as flustered as I felt. "Both, depending on who's asking." She didn't laugh, but she smiled. A brief, restrained curve of the lips that felt more dangerous than a full grin. Her car, a deep blue sedan that had seen better days, was parked outside. "It's making a sound," she said, "like it's tired of being driven by me." I asked what kind of sound. She imitated it, terribly. It made me laugh before I could stop myself. She tilted her head. "You find that funny?" "No. I wiped my hands on a rag, trying to regain composure. I've never heard anyone describe an engine problem like it was heartache." Her expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "Everything breaks like that eventually." There was silence after that. Not uncomfortable, just charged. The kind that fills up the space between two people who weren't planning on noticing each other, but somehow did. When I opened the hood of her car, she stood close enough for me to feel her perfume. Faint, woody, not sweet. I don't think she realized how close she was standing. Or maybe she did. I explained what needed to be fixed, and she listened like someone who understood more than she was saying. The conversation drifted, about engines, about patience, about how everything these days was made to fall apart faster. At one point, she brushed her fingers over a wrench on the workbench, her nails glinting under the shop light. "You're too young to be fixing things that are meant to stay broken," she said. "Maybe I just don't like giving up on them," I replied before thinking. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes held something between amusement and warning. "You'll never win me with that kind of line." I don't know why I said it. Maybe because the words came from somewhere deeper than thought. "Then let me lose with you forever." The air shifted, heavy still. For a second, neither of us moved. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock, the hum of that damn flickering light. She broke the moment first. "Fix the car," she said softly, turning away. But I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. Not quite a smile, not quite resistance. After she left, I realized I'd been holding my breath. Her perfume lingered long after the door shut. I found her forgotten sunglasses on the counter, slim black frames, one arm slightly bent. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that faint smile she tried to hide, and I couldn't stop wondering if she left them behind on purpose. The next time she came in, it was raining, that kind of slow, steady drizzle that makes everything feel quieter than it should. The shop smelled of wet concrete and engine oil. I was tightening bolts on a pickup when I saw her reflection in the window before I heard her voice. "You still keep the lights this dim?" I turned. She stood in the doorway, umbrella dripping, coat dark with rain. Something about her looked softer this time. Not her expression exactly, but the way she held herself. Less composed. "Dim lights make the flaws harder to see," I said, half joking. She gave me that same almost smile as before. Convenient. Her car hadn't broken again. She said she was just passing by, but people don't wander into repair shops just to escape the rain. She set a thermos down on the counter. "Coffee," she said. "Black. I figured you'd drink it like that." I didn't ask how she knew. Maybe she was guessing. Maybe she noticed the same way I had noticed her, quietly, without meaning to. We stood there for a bit, the rain pattering against the metal roof. I poured the coffee into 2 paper cups, and we leaned against the counter, not saying much. She didn't seem to like silence, but she didn't try to fill it either. Her hands were small, veins faintly visible, fingers moving like she was always thinking about something she wasn't saying. When she reached for the cup, I saw a faint tremor, not from cold, but from exhaustion. The kind that sits under your skin, old and familiar. Long day? I asked. She exhaled through her nose, almost a laugh. Long year. Then, after a pause, you shouldn't ask questions like that. It makes you seem like you care. Maybe I do. Her gaze flicked up, a half-second of eye contact that felt longer than it was. Don't, she said, so quietly I almost missed it. But her voice cracked just slightly, the tiniest fracture in all that composure. I didn't press. She took a sip of her coffee, stared at nothing in particular, and said, "You remind me of someone who used to believe everything could be fixed." Used to? She nodded. He learned. She smiled after that. A small, weary smile that didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to ask what happened to him, but the look she gave me said it wasn't my place yet. The rain slowed. She tapped her fingers on the counter, restless. Then she glanced toward the flickering light, still buzzing, still refusing to stay steady. "You really should fix that," she murmured. "I keep meaning to," I said. "But every time I try, something more important walks in." This time, she didn't hide her smile. Just shook her head, eyes soft. "Careful, kid. You talk like that, and someone might start believing you." She left a few minutes later, umbrella tilted against the drizzle. When the door closed, I realized she'd left her thermos behind. And for some reason, I didn't put it away. I left it right there on the counter, where her hand had been, still faintly warm. The third time we crossed paths, it wasn't planned, at least not by me. Mara's car was parked outside again, this time with the hood open and a flashlight balanced on the fender. It was after closing, the sky bruised with oncoming rain. I could have pretended not to see, but I didn't. She looked up when I approached, the beam of her light catching the silver in her hair. "You don't have to play hero every time something sputters," she said. "Maybe I just like excuses to talk about engines," I said, grabbing a rag from my pocket. She didn't stop me. We worked side by side in the growing dark, thunder rumbling somewhere far off. She handed me tools without asking what I needed, somehow always the right ones. The air smelled of rain and metal and something faintly floral from her coat. I tried not to notice how close she was standing, but when her arm brushed mine, my chest tightened like a wrench in too small a bolt. After a while, the silence grew heavier than the air. I could hear her breathing, slow, deliberate, like she was trying not to say something. Then she said it anyway, quietly. "You remind me of my son's friend. He used to linger like this, too. Always looking like he wanted to ask a question, but never did." I froze, my hand still on the wrench. "What question?" She shrugged, staring into the engine bay. "Maybe something he shouldn't." Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket, sharp against the quiet. She didn't check it at first, but when it rang again, she sighed and pulled it out. The screen lit her face, a name flashing that made her expression shift, tight and distant. "Sorry," she muttered, stepping aside to answer. Her voice softened as she spoke, lower, unfamiliar. I heard fragments. "No, I told you. It's not like that. Please, just stop calling." She ended the call, exhaling through her teeth. The rain had started, soft but steady. She turned toward me, hair damp around her face. "X?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes met mine, unreadable, steady, something like that. Then she hesitated. "You shouldn't ask things you don't want the answer to. I don't mind complicated answers." She smiled, tired. "That's what worries me." The rain thickened, drumming on the hood above us. She stepped closer to avoid the downpour, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine again. This time, she didn't move away. My pulse jumped. I could see the faint smudge of oil on her wrist from where she'd helped earlier. I wanted to reach out, wipe it away, ridiculous, really, but I didn't. Instead, I said softly, "You're soaked. Come inside before you catch cold." She looked at me for a long moment, eyes flicking between my face and the open shop door. "If I go in," she said, voice barely audible, "something changes. You know that, don't you?" I nodded. "Yeah." A flash of lightning split the sky, white and blinding. For a heartbeat, we stood there, close enough for breath to meet breath. Then she stepped back. "Fix the light," she said, and turned toward her car. I watched her drive off through the rain, tail lights dissolving into the storm. And for the first time, I didn't want the light to stop flickering. She came back on a Thursday. The sky was pale, windless, that kind of gray that makes everything feel like it's waiting for something to happen. The light over the counter had finally died. The shop felt emptier without its weak buzz, quieter too. I was replacing it when she walked in, carrying nothing this time. No thermos, no excuse. Just herself. "You fixed it," she said, nodding toward the ceiling. "Eventually," I said. "Didn't want you thinking I was hopeless." "You're too late," she said softly, and for the first time, it didn't sound teasing. She looked tired. Not the kind of tired coffee helps, the kind that comes from holding yourself together for too long. I offered her a seat, but she stayed standing, arms folded, eyes tracing the cracks on the concrete floor. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "This," and stopped. She gestured vaguely between us. "This can't keep happening." My throat tightened. "What's happening?" She let out a breath that sounded like a laugh, but wasn't. Exactly. I wanted to tell her it was nothing, that we were just two people talking. But we both knew that was a lie. She walked closer, slow, deliberate, until she was just a few feet away. "You look at me like you're trying to solve something that doesn't have an answer," she said. "Maybe I just don't like leaving things unfinished." "That's not noble," she said. "It's dangerous." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Her words lingered in the air, sharp and quiet. She sighed and leaned against the counter, eyes distant. "You think I don't notice?" "The pauses. The way you stop talking whenever I look at you too long. I thought you preferred silence." "I do," she said. "But not this kind." Something cracked inside me then, something small but loud. I stepped closer without meaning to. The air between us felt heavier than it should have, full of things we'd both refused to name. She didn't move away, just looked at me, steady and unblinking. "You're young," she said finally. "You still think wanting something makes it right. And you don't." Her eyes flicked down, then back up, and for a heartbeat, all her walls fell away. There it was, the flicker of something raw, frightened, alive. "I used to," she whispered, "before I learned what it costs." The silence that followed wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. It pressed against us, asked for something neither of us could give. I wanted to reach out, to touch her hand, her sleeve, anything, but I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because it would have ruined the only truth we still had between us. She stepped back, eyes glistening in the dim light. "You don't know what you're doing," she said. "Maybe not," I said quietly. "But neither do you." Her lips parted, like she was going to say something, then closed again. The sound of her breath filled the room. When she finally turned to leave, she paused at the door. Without looking back, she said, "You make me remember things I promised myself I'd forget." And then she was gone. It had been almost 2 weeks since she last came by. I told myself I didn't notice, but every time the shop door opened, my stomach tightened before I saw who it was. Then, one evening, just before closing, Mara appeared again. No car this time. No reason to be there. Just her, standing in the doorway like someone half lost, half decided. "You still open?" she asked. "For you," I said, and instantly hated how easily it came out. She smiled faintly but didn't answer. Instead, she walked past me and placed something on the counter, an old photograph, edges curled, colors fading. "That was my husband," she said. The man in the photo was older than I expected, graying hair, steady eyes. They were standing in front of the same kind of car I'd fixed for her, both smiling, both pretending to believe in forever. "I don't show this to anyone," she said. Her voice was calm, but her fingers tightened around the edge of the photo like it might slip away if she let go. "He died 5 years ago. Heart attack. Just gone." One morning, the coffee was still hot. I didn't know what to say. Words felt like intruders in that kind of silence. She went on, eyes on the photo. "You do this thing," she said. "You look at me like he used to, before everything started breaking. Like the world hasn't taught you to stop believing yet." She laughed softly, not bitterly, just small and tired. "That's what I can't stand about you." I swallowed. "Then why are you here?" "Because I don't know how not to be." She looked up then, really looked, and something shifted. I'd never seen her so unguarded, so fragilely human. Her lipstick was slightly smudged, her hair falling loose from the rain outside. But it was her eyes that undid me, that mix of longing and apology, like she was already saying goodbye to something she hadn't even let begin. I kept thinking I could manage this, she said. Keep it harmless. Keep you at arm's length. But the truth is, you remind me of everything I miss. Everything I swore I'd stop missing. I stepped closer, slow, careful, but she shook her head. Don't, she whispered. It's not fair to either of us. I'm not trying to fix you, I said. I just don't want to pretend I don't care. Her breath caught, almost imperceptibly. She closed her eyes. You shouldn't. The room felt smaller. The air, thicker. Outside, the streetlights flickered on, one after another, washing the walls in a pale orange glow. Then she did something I didn't expect. She slid the photograph across the counter toward me. Keep it, she said. Maybe it'll remind you why people like me don't believe in second chances. I didn't reach for it right away. The edges of the photo caught the light, trembling slightly from the breeze through the half-open door. When I finally looked up, she was already walking away. And though she hadn't touched me once that night, I swear I could still feel the echo of her hand letting go. It happened on a Sunday evening, quiet, gray, the kind of stillness that feels borrowed from another world. The shop was closed, the lights dim. I'd stayed late, half working, half waiting for something I didn't have the courage to name. The bell over the door jingled, soft but familiar. I didn't need to look up. You left the lights on again, Mara said. Her tone wasn't scolding this time, just tired, gentle. Maybe I was hoping you'd notice, I said. She walked in slowly, running her hand along the counter, fingertips tracing the grain of the old wood like she was trying to remember its texture. She wore no makeup, no mask, just herself, bare and real. I wasn't going to come, she said after a moment. I told myself it was over, that I'd done the right thing. And she smiled faintly. Turns out the right thing doesn't always feel right. We stood there, the hum of the refrigerator in the corner filling the silence between us. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to fill it with words. I just watched her, the way her shoulders seemed lighter tonight, her eyes softer, unshielded. I thought about what you said, she continued, about pretending not to care. I've spent years pretending, for my son, my job, for people who stopped asking how I was doing. I got good at it. Too good. I took a slow breath. You don't have to pretend here. She looked up, something shifting in her gaze, something quiet and surrendering. That's the problem, she whispered. You make it too easy to stop pretending. The words landed like a slow heartbeat. I didn't move closer at first. Neither did she. It was as if both of us were afraid that stepping forward might break whatever fragile piece had finally formed. Then, after a long pause, she reached out, just barely, and brushed a smear of grease off my wrist. Her thumb lingered a second too long. A simple, human gesture. But it felt like everything. I can't promise you anything, she said. Not forever, not even tomorrow. I'm not asking for that. She nodded, almost relieved. Good. Her hand stayed where it was, resting lightly against my arm. The air around us softened. No thunder, no storm. Just the quiet hum of two people finally allowing something unspoken to exist. We didn't kiss. We didn't have to. The silence between us had already said it. After a while, she stepped closer, close enough that our foreheads almost touched, close enough to feel her breath. Do you ever get tired of fixing things? She murmured. Only when they don't want to be fixed, I said. Her lips curved, a whisper of a smile. Then maybe just don't try this time. I nodded. She rested her hand over mine, warm and steady. We stood there like that, two people who'd stopped pretending, if only for a moment. Outside, the rain began again, soft and forgiving. And for once, I didn't look away. It's been 6 months since that night. The light over the counter still flickers sometimes, not as bad as before, but enough to remind me that nothing stays perfect for long. I don't rush to fix it anymore. Some things are better left imperfect, like us. Mara still comes by, though not as often. Sometimes she brings her car, sometimes just herself. We don't talk about that night. We don't need to. It's folded into the quiet between us, in the pauses where words used to hide. We've built this strange, tender rhythm. No promises, no labels, just moments that feel real enough to hold on to. She'll sit on the counter, sipping her coffee, pretending to read the newspaper while I work. I'll catch her watching me sometimes, and she'll look away, pretending she wasn't. It's almost funny, the way two people can dance around something so big and still make it gentle. Once, she said, "You've changed." I asked how. "You stopped trying to fix everything." I didn't answer right away. Maybe because I knew she was right. Maybe because I realized that's what she'd taught me without ever meaning to. I used to think love, or whatever this is, was about holding on until things made sense. Now I know it's more about learning when to let silence speak for you. Sometimes caring for someone isn't about saving them. It's about standing next to them, even when there's nothing left to say. Mara still keeps her guard up, but every now and then, she lets it slip, just enough. Like the time she fell asleep in the chair by the window, her hand loosely hanging off the armrest, a faint smile softening her face. I didn't wake her. I just watched the way the light touched her hair and thought, maybe this is what peace looks like when you stop asking it to stay forever. We're not a storybook ending. We don't fit any definition of right. But what we have feels honest. Two lives intersecting at the exact moment both needed to be reminded they could still feel something. Sometimes she leaves early. Sometimes she lingers. Sometimes she stands in the doorway before leaving and says, "You'll never win me." And I always answer the same way. "Then let me lose with you forever." She smiles, shakes her head, and walks out, and every time, the shop feels quieter, but never empty. Maybe that's what love really is. Not the noise, not the chase, but the quiet after, when everything finally makes sense in its own flawed, beautiful way. So if you've ever met someone who made the world feel both heavier and lighter, hold that feeling for a moment. Don't overthink it. Just let it breathe. Because sometimes, losing with someone like that doesn't feel like losing at all.